Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're reviewing for you Indiana Jones and the Great Circle on the Nintendo Switch 2. This review was originally written by the lovely Ken Talbot and has been adapted for video by me. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. Indiana Jones is a multi-generational icon, and the weight of developing a new entry in the franchise must be as intimidating as a giant rolling boulder. He's a character that has permeated every facet of media since he first found the Ark of the Covenant back in 1981. The impact of his legacy in video games cannot be understated either. After all, medium-defining icon Lara Croft and her tomb-raiding contemporaries would not exist without Henry Jones Jr. setting the standard. Indy's own video game outings have been mixed with plenty of misfires. I'm looking at you in particular, The Last Crusade on the Sega Master System, and at least one classic in 1992's Fate of Atlantis. Now, Machine Games is having a whip crack at the character, bringing the cinematic storytelling and brutal action it honed with its Wolfenstein cycle to create a genuine blockbuster of a game. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle perfectly embodies the old-fashioned adventuring spirit that makes the series such an enduring cultural presence. Following its Xbox debut in 2024 and PS5 port in 2025, thankfully it arrives on Switch 2 in a state as handsome as 80s-era Harrison Ford, complete with the odd scar or two. After a tutorial that lovingly recreates the iconic opening from Raiders of the Lost Ark, we rejoin Indiana Jones in 1937 as he investigates a break-in at Marshall College. A mysterious symbol worn by an imposingly large thief played by the late great Tony Todd sends him to Vatican City, where he teams up with journalist Gina Lombardi and uncovers a secret conspiracy to protect a geographical phenomenon known as the Great Circle. This being 1937, you wouldn't be surprised to know that the Nazis want to harness this supernatural power behind these interconnected sites of intrigue. From Rome, Indy travels to Egypt, Siam, Iraq, and several other locations around the globe, attempting to protect the secret of the Great Circle from a villainous archaeologist and his swastika-wearing buddies. A first-person adventure, the main campaign is big in every sense of the word, with a good balance of exploration, combat, and archaeological puzzling. There's a surprising amount of visually diverse locales filled with side quests and collectibles. Machine Games builds on the semi-open world design it experimented with in its previous titles, making each location Indy visits a hub of activity and discovery. Every level has a clear identity, right down to the local delicacies that give Indy a boost of health or stamina. Progressing the story is required to fully unlock these areas, but plundering each map for everything it has will significantly extend the game's lifespan beyond the 15 to 20 hour main adventure. It ain't the years, honey, it's the mileage. It's also worth noting that the Order of the Giants DLC is available at launch, although sadly not bundled together with the base game, and brings a 5-hour story that has Indy exploring Roman catacombs. These beautiful locations are not just populated by opulent buildings and diverse wildlife, they are crawling with enemies. Disguises help Indy move through the areas safely, but there will be plenty of times when you need to poke around areas where even your disguise won't help you. Professor Jones can either sneak around or confront the bad guys head on, and you're gonna want to do the former if you're playing on the hardest difficulty. Yeah, sneaking is usually the smarter option, as raising an alarm will send an absolute battalion of jackboots swarming to your position. And newsflash, Indiana Jones is not BJ Blazkowicz. He cannot dual-wield automatic weapons, and ammo is usually not super plentiful on Egyptian dig sites. When stealth fails, melee combat becomes your go-to for dispatching enemies, and this is where Indiana Jones and the Great Circle really sings. The loud crash of a fist impacting a fascist's face will be familiar to anyone who has enjoyed Indy's cinematic adventures. Then there's the satisfying crack of his trusty whip as it disarms an enemy, leaving them open to attack with anything handy that's lying around. And there is such a diverse collection of items you can use to hit someone that half the fun of a combat encounter is just deciding which comical weapon to use. Bottles, hammers, guitars, fly swatters, the list is seemingly endless. Of all the things we expected from an Indiana Jones game, beating a man half to death with a paintbrush was not high on our list. There are guns, of course, and they feel just as good to shoot shoot as Indy's fists feel to throw, but resources are scarce enough that mowing down Nazis with a Winchester 1887 is more of a rare treat than a reliable form of combat. In addition to the brilliant sound design bolstered by a gorgeous musical score that makes great use of John Williams' themes, we can't get through this review without calling attention to Troy Baker, who somehow manages to transcend mere impression with his performance as Indiana Jones. Baker nails the world-weary confidence of the title character, and his voice is absolutely essential to the overall authenticity of the experience. Special mention must also go to Mario Gavrilis as the oddball main antagonist, Emmerich Voss. It's not all fortune and glory, though. Archaeology is a messy old business. Combat can be a little bit frustrating at times, thanks in no small part to an item selection system that will have you mashing the D-pad to try and bandage yourself up mid-fight, and accidentally eating a prickly pear. Happens to the best of us. There are plenty of upgrades and perks to increase survivability, like reviving by donning Indy's hat, but on the higher end of the game's 4 difficulty levels, getting into a fight can be a bit of a slog. Thankfully, there are some nice accessibility options like auto parry that can stop Indiana taking such a pummeling. One thing that doesn't take a beating is the Switch 2, which handles this huge, stunning game with enthusiasm. Alongside the surprising presence of both gyro and mouse controls, the devs have taken great care in not compromising the spectacle of this adventure. An obvious performance caveat is the 30 FPS lock, with Machine Games choosing a lower frame rate trade-off to preserve overall visual quality. The devs state that the resolution is 1080p undocked and 720p handheld, with DLSS on hand as usual to pick up the slack. Despite the lower frame rate, this version stands up surprisingly well. Frames remain overall stable throughout the playthrough, and the only major visual hiccup is some occasional texture pop-in when you're running through some of the big open areas. It's extremely impressive to play a game like this in handheld mode, and whilst the visuals are noticeably downgraded out of the dock, it still looks and sounds great. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a superb globe-trotting adventure with compelling exploration, crunchy melee, and tomb-raiding puzzles. With a great story and sky-high production value, this is easily an authentic new franchise entry with a capable lead in Troy Baker. And despite taking the odd hit here and there, the Switch 2 port holds its own admirably. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, you're getting an 8 out of 10 from us. Now that the official stuff is out of the way, it's time for Alex's personal thoughts, and I absolutely love this game. There's something so utterly genuine about the experience. It feels like it is just another Indiana Jones film. It is so close to the classics, like, and I mean the classics, like, what was with the Temple of Doom? It really just wasn't as good. But Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade, it feels like it slots beautifully in there, absolutely beautifully. It is so authentic, and it is just so much fun as well. There's so much to explore, so much to dive into, so much to uncover, so many little details that make the game just feel so unbelievably alive. I do agree with Ken, though, the whole D-pad selection system for the menus, like the quick items. Sometimes I will select bandages, and I remember this happened on the Xbox as well. Sometimes I'll select bandages, but it'll be like, you wanted fruit, didn't you? And I press the button and I eat a piece of fruit, and it's like, I didn't want to eat a piece of fruit. And the Switch 2 version naturally makes some compromises, but overall, I really couldn't care about those. It is such a good time. And I think that the Switch 2 version is, whilst it may not be the prettiest version, the version that runs the best. If you've got a Switch 2 or if you want to play this game portably, this is easily your best option bar none. I have a particular fondness for the main antagonist, Voss, not because he's a likable person, no, he's a complete arse, but just the way that he is acted, the way that he is presented is just beautiful. He's just, to glance at him, he looks, he's got the little round spectacles and stuff, and he's a bit of a, he's an archaeologist, so he's a bit of a nerd, but the way that he holds himself, his posture is almost too strong in a way. It makes him appear completely stiff, but in a very believable sense. He's very sure of himself. And it means that when you do see him getting pummeled every now and then, it is just beautiful and so cathartic. As mentioned in the review, I did play on the hardest difficulty, and if you like this style of game and you're confident in your gaming ability and stealth mechanics and things like that, I would seriously recommend giving it a go. The easier difficulties are great, don't get me wrong, and it has various things like prompts so you know when an enemy spotted you and stuff like that, but you also get that to a degree with the hardest difficulty. You just have to be more aware. You don't get visual clues, you just have to hear a sort of like a huh, and maybe a slight little ring. to sort of say, watch out, fella, someone might have spotted you a bit, and you've got to try and react to that. You don't have all the prompts on screen all the time saying, you need to go here, you need to get your map out, and then the prompts do appear. It's a great balance, and I feel that personally, it's the best way to play the game if your skills are up for the task. You can change individual difficulty options as well if the combat gets a bit too much, which it sometimes can. You'll go in and, you'd be punching, 7 different Nazis and then one of them gets 2 hits on you and you're dead. That's a bit disheartening, I can't lie, but for me, that means that I'm encouraged not to get into combat or to kind of divide and conquer and take out individual enemies rather than just going all in. I fired a gun, I think, once in this game, and that was just to see if I could, shoot something down. And I just got a swarm of enemies coming after me, and it's like, I'm never firing a gun again. It is tempting, though, when you've got an automatic weapon to just go ham, but I'm just like, all the enemies will find me, and they've got guns as well. I'm not gonna survive. It is a little bit hammy at points as well, but that is only part of the Indiana Jones charm to me. It's not super serious, it's not super stoic 100% of the time, it knows when to have fun, and the game balances it just perfectly. Little cutscenes here and there where he does something a little bit silly or he has an offhand comment. And when you're using the whip and you're climbing up and occasionally he'll go, oh! Because he's in his 40s or something? It's just refreshing to hear normal human sounds out of people. He's not a superhero. He's just a man. And you feel that all the way through your adventure. Yes, he is exceptional, but he is still only human. And he will die to a couple of bullets. So be careful, but seriously, this game is superb. Play it.